Oh man, we back, Trey.
Hold up. Make sure you motherfuckers hit that subscribe button and that like button, man. Let's get into it.
Oh man, so shit. I know a lot of people been following, the ishowspeed African tour he's doing right now. He's going around all the
Yeah.
African North African, South African. He's just visiting the whole continent and stuff. And shit, it looks like as soon as he started visiting North Africa, shit, you got a lot of people speculating there's a lot of racism going on there. I believe in Algeria, they were throwing water bottles at him, calling them the N word, all type of stuff. Calling him a Jew. There was a whole bunch of a lot of racist moments in those in that live stream he did in Algeria. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's very interesting. Okay, so when you talk about Africa, it's very dynamic and it's very big, and it's a big history in Africa. And when you look at what's going on and shit, it's just crazy. That whole region is crazy. You got open slave markets in Libya. That sell other Africans. Arabs that selling Africans. It's so racist towards black Africans. And these people was Arabs. So I'm like, how can you be racist to an African in Africa? They're just guests there. A lot of them came down from Gaza. A lot of them is like Assyrians and stuff like that. That came down and traveled down. So they understand that that is the black man land, but due to some wars, black Africans lost the land, and most Africans went down into regions like Mali, Burkina Faso, Sudan, stuff like that, because North Africa is dry as shit, and it's really not worth nothing. The good land is Central Africa and South Africa and East Africa, you know, places like that, like the Congo, Nigeria, Ghana. Those is where the resources is vast. That's where you want to be at. North Africa, the black man once ruled that at a time, Egypt and places like that in that area, but they left because it's just dry. And so what you have is a lot of Arabs that knows that the black man is the true ruler of that land. And when they see a black man, they see their father, because Arab really just mean mixed race. Even when you look into the history of people that was in what you call the Middle East, all black men. Even the scriptures will verify that. You know, but I seen them throwing water at the brother and all of this extra shit. And you ask yourself like why, like why must y'all throw water? And I understand why, because they know who he is. We need to wake up and know who we are. We are the chosen people. The man even looked at him and called him a Jew. Yikes. So these other nations know who we are. Black men, black women just need to wake up and and claim their spot and claim the throne. Once the black man is back ruling the planet, it will be peace on earth. You know, what is them people called the Arabian, the original Arabian people? If you look up indigenous Arabians, they're black people. So that whole land, that whole area was once ruled and controlled by black people. Even when you look up the Moors and Berbers, those are all black men. Where you get Arabs really, like where you really get Arabs from, is from the Gaza area, you know, and mixed in with Berbers and Latins and stuff like that, Latin people and stuff like that. That's where Arabs really originate from. They just a mixture of different groups. Like, what's that one punk motherfucker name? I think his name is Martin Gaines. That's an Arab. That's like close to how Arabs look, a few hundred years ago, or that's around how they look around the time of Muhammad. They look more like Martin Gaines. And a lot of people try to say Martin Gaines is a black man. He's not a black man. He's an Arab. And if you travel the world and you meet people from different places, like I have, you will understand that Martin, he's not a black man. He's an Arab. It's like people in northern Sudan area, northern Sudan, those are not black people. South Sudan is black, but up northern, those is Arabs, and a lot of people try to bunch them in with us. They not black people, you know. And it's just crazy how people try to play it, this and that. And then what the brothers say, I show speed about the buildings. It look like French.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was interesting that he said that Algeria looked like French, because if you think about it, you know the French once colonized that region, but before the French colonized that region, they got colonized or taken over by the Moorish dynasty, a black man, you know, mostly black men that came from Mali, Burkina Faso, Ghana, Nigeria, and Libya, black men in that area, and not including that indigenous black man that was in Europe, living in the hills and mountains of Europe, once ruled France. So when you look at these buildings, that's black man architects. Even when you go into places like Mexico, and they say, "Oh, this is Spanish architect in Mexico." If you really look, that's African architect in Spain. So when the Spanish came to the Americas and they started building, you see this Moorish architect in Mexico, because the Mexicans got it from the Spaniards, and the Spaniards got it from the Africans that was called Moors. So all these things is interesting when you really just trace history and trace it back, But getting back to the topic, it's really crazy, like, that you still have these things going on today, But people feel bad and like, oh, everywhere the black man go, he get treated bad. Everywhere we go, we get treated bad. The reason why is because these other nations know who we are and they know who they is. So until we wake up and really see who we are, you know what I'm saying? It's just gonna be like that. Only way that you can kind of come out of this thing unscathed and have a pretty successful life is if you a bootlicker and you selfish. Like I box, right? So I always tell my homeboy, I'm like, see, man, I might get robbed in a fight, or I might not get certain opportunities in fights, because the shit I'm talking about on this podcast, or the shit that I will say after a fight, or the shit that I do. And I said Floyd Mayweather, he can say he's the greatest boxer all the time because he got opportunities, but he's a bootlicking clown. He is a good boxer, he's a great boxer, I'll give it to him, but he was in a lot of close fights that they gave him because he was a bootlicker. Me, I might dominate my opponent or might not even get the opportunity because of what I stand for, and I'm willing to live with that, because this is what God called me to do. This is what I feel like God called me to do. I'm not gonna sit here and say God talk to me, nothing like that, but God will show you certain things in your life, and like, if you take the opportunity, you take it. If you don't, you sit and be miserable. So I feel like this is what God want me to do. So, what's up? What's next?
Basically, getting back on that topic is, so what was the reason? What do you believe is the reason that he received more love, and when he went to Ghana, when he was in Egypt, when he was more in those South African places compared to when he went up to Algeria, Morocco, and we faced more racism there.
So the reason he got more love in the real African nations is because Africans understand that the black man is a distant relative to them, and so they're gonna show us love. And once we wake up and get on track, then Africa will wake up as a whole. I think the West, especially in America, we push the culture to all black nations. It is what it is. The black man in America dictate the pace of style, music, just everything. So when the black men in America wake up, the other dark nations in Africa, the other real African nations, the so-called black African nations, will wake up too, and that'll be a scary thing for the world. Not just Northern African Islamic Mohammedans or whatever they is, ISIS or whatever. What's another terrorist group? You got ISIS. You got jihadists. All of that shit. But once the Africans really wake up, and once the black men in America wake up, then they're gonna wake up on a deeper level, and all them ISIS and jihadists and all them, they gotta go, man. And it is what it is. So when you ask me why did they show him love, the people that look like him is simple because they look like us and we all family at the end of the day. You know, I always say this: the black man is a mixture of three people on this earth. Uh, he's a mixture of the Africans that came here during slavery, or trade routes or whatever or what have you, came here free willingly to trade with the native of this land. And then the black man is also a native, and the black man is a so-called black European that was a colonist that came here. And a lot of people think all black people came here as slaves. No, you had a lot of black people that came here that was in the colonies, you know, in the Virginia, you know. So when you look at that, they don't teach us that in school. But if you read a book by, I think it's Benjamin Franklin, he described what he saw in Germany. The ruling class of Germany, Scotland, Ireland, all the places was black men, black kings, and there was black people there that had names like Peter or you know, or Charles or Smith or Jackson, Johnson in Europe. So those not slave names come from slave masters. Those is black European names. A lot of people don't understand that, you know. So when you look at that, black people around the world is just one big family, and that's why I show speed got loved by them other nations. But our charisma and style is so much that them Arabs know that they gotta talk down on us and they gotta try to oppress us for their women won't fall in love with us. And that's just what it is. So when you see I show speed and you see that brother over there, you see the Arab woman hidden, because they know if you bring real black men around any nation of women, the women go crazy because the charisma that we have, you know. So it just is what it is, man. And so a lot of these people keep saying, there's black people, this and that. Yeah, man, come on, man. Y'all